What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we're bringing you a special episode where each player is going to be playing one of the new starter commander decks that are set to be released in December, but were graciously supplied to us for this episode by our sponsor, International MTG. We would also like to shout out our second full-time channel sponsor for Season 3, The Hobby Horse. If you're ever in the Central Illinois area, be sure to stop in and check out the store, as well as saying hi to Martin. This week's matchup features Gavin playing the Grave Danger deck, being led by Jason Giralf, Patrick making his second appearance on the channel this year, playing the Token Triumph deck, being led by Amara, Soul of the Accord, Foggraw returning, playing with the Tarka Worldrender in the Draconic Destruction deck, and finally Justin back playing with Asperia Supreme Judge in the First Flight deck. Now that we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Fog plays a tap Shivan Oasis. Justin plays the Plains. Gavin plays a Command Tower, then pays 1 for Wayfarer's Bauble. Patrick plays a Forest, then casts a beautiful turn 1 Sol Ring. Fog plays a Forest for turn, Justin plays an Island. Gavin plays a Swamp to cast a Talisman of Dominance. Patrick plays a Fortified Village for turn, revealing a forest from his hand. He then pays 2 and casts his commander, Amara. Fog plays a Mountain for turn, that pays to cast a Dragon Speaker Shaman. Justin plays an Island and passes. Gavin plays a Swamp, that casts his commander, Jason Giralf. He then mills the top 4 cards of his library and passes. Patrick plays another Forest, then swings his commander Justin for 2 damage. This then creates him a Soldier token, and he casts a Leafkin Druid, then casts a Commander Sphere. Fog plays a Mountain for turn, then casts a Rapacious Dragon, which creates him 2 treasure tokens. Justin plays a Plains for turn to cast a Thought Vessel. Gavin plays a Swamp for turn to cast a Loyal Subordinate. He then cracks his Bauble to go get a land, while each opponent loses 3 life when he goes to combat. Patrick plays a Plains for turn to cast a Null Mage Shepherd. Fog plays another Mountain to cast a Crucible of Fire. He then goes to combat, swinging his Dragon to Gavin for 6 damage. Patrick then casts an Orb Mutation to destroy Fog's Crucible, creating himself 4 Saproling tokens. Justin plays a Plains for turn to cast a Sphinx of Enlightenment. He then chooses Fog to draw a card while he draws 3 cards. Gavin casts Pilfered Plans, putting the top 2 cards of his library into his graveyard, and then chooses himself to also draw 2 cards. Gavin then plays a Temple of Deceit, scrying 1 card, keeping it on top of his library. Each opponent then loses 3 more life when he goes to combat and he passes. On his end step, Patrick uses his Null Mage Shepherd along with 3 other creatures, including his commander, to destroy Gavin's Talisman, which creates Patrick another Soldier token. Patrick plays a Plains for turn, then floats a mana before sacking his Fury to draw a card, and then casting a Slate of Ancestry. Fog draws and casts a Steel Hellkite before going to combat, swinging his Dragon to Patrick for 6 damage. Justin casts Favorable Winds before passing. Gavin casts a Deep Analysis in order to draw 2 cards. He then casts an Arcane Signet, and each opponent then loses 3 life when he goes to combat. On his end step, Patrick taps his creatures in order to destroy Fog's Hellkite, and in response, Fog casts a Spit Flame to destroy Patrick's Shepherd. Justin then casts a Generous Gift to destroy Patrick's Slate of Ancestry, and in response, Patrick uses it to discard his hand and draw 9 new cards. Patrick then gets an Elephant token and plays a Plains for turn. He then casts a Collective Blessing before going to combat and swinging out completely unprovoked at Fog, who blocks with his commander but still takes 28 damage. Patrick then gains 12 life and casts an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Fog casts a Harmonize in order to draw 3 cards. He then plays a Game Trail for turn, revealing a land from his hand. He then casts Loaming Shaman, choosing to shuffle all the cards in his graveyard into his library. Justin plays an Island for turn to cast a Pilgrim's Eye, going to get a basic land from his library. Gavin plays an Island for turn that pays 3 life to flashback his Deep Analysis in order to draw 2 more cards. He then casts Feed the Swarm to kill his subordinate, saving Fog from dying. He then casts a Laboratory Drudge from his graveyard, drawing a card on his end step. Patrick plays a Reclamation Sage, using it to blow up Justin's enchantment. He then goes to combat, swinging all his creatures at Justin, who responds by casting Aetherize. This then returns all of Patrick's attacking creatures back to his hand. Patrick then recasts his Reclamation Sage, Leafkin Druid, his commander, and also an Absence Pilgrim before casting a Voice of Many in order to draw 3 more cards. Fog plays a Mountain for turn to cast a Clutch Turn 8 Sol Ring. He then casts a Demanding Dragon targeting Patrick. Patrick then chooses to lose 5 life. Justin plays the Plains for turn to cast a Cloud Blazer, gaining 2 life and drawing 2 cards. Gavin plays another island before casting a Lolith Giant, targeting Patrick, having him lose 1 life. Patrick plays Vitu-Ghazi the City Tree and casts an Idol of Oblivion. Fog casts an Elemental Bond that casts a Savage Ventmaw, drawing a card when he enters play. He then plays a Mountain and passes. Justin plays a Prairie Stream for turn that casts a Fairy Formation. Gavin plays a Swamp for turn to cast a Gravesworn Sovereign. On his end step, Patrick uses his City Tree to create a Saproling token and then taps his Idol to draw a card. He then plays a Forest for turn before enchanting his commander with Karametra's Favor. Fog casts Garruk's Uprising, drawing a card when he enters. He then plays a tapped Timber Gorge and casts a Flame Blast Dragon, drawing 2 cards when he enters play. He then swings his Ventmaw at Patrick, who in response casts a Devouring Light, which then gets countered by Justin with a negate. Patrick then takes his 4 damage and Fog adds 6 mana to his mana pool. Fog then casts his commander Targa, drawing 2 more cards. Justin plays an island that casts a Talisman of Progress before also casting his commander Asperia. Gavin plays an island that casts a Vampiric Rites. He then pays to cast his Loyal Subordinate from his graveyard before sacking it to his rights in order to gain a life and draw a card. He then passes, drawing off his Drudge trigger. On his end step, Patrick tries to cast a White Sun Zenith for 8, which then gets countered by Justin with a counterspell. Patrick plays a Plains for turn and casts Camaraderie for 7. He then gains 7 life and draws 7 cards before he casts a Thunderfoot Baloth, which then gets countered by Gavin with a Sinister Sabotage. Gavin then surveils 1 card. Patrick then enchants Justin with a Curse of Bounty before attacking with 1 creature. Justin then draws off his Asperia trigger while Patrick untaps all of his permanents. Justin then blocks with his Pilgrim's Eye, and second main phase, Patrick casts Trostani Discordant, creating 2 more soldier tokens as well as casting a Scavenging Ooze. Fog casts a Akum Hellkite, drawing 2 cards when he enters. He then plays a land for turn, which deals 1 damage to Patrick while he gains a life. Fog then recasts his Crucible of Fire, and before combat, Patrick casts Path to Exile, targeting a Targa. Fog then puts a Mountain to play off the Path trigger, shooting Patrick for 2 more damage. He then swings his Ventmaw at Patrick once again, dealing 4 damage to Patrick and adding 6 mana to his mana pool. He then casts a Dream Pillager, drawing 2 cards. Justin enchants his commander with a Staggering Insight, then goes to combat swinging his Spear at Patrick for 7 commander damage. He then gains 7 life and draws a card. Gavin casts a Soul Ring for turn to cast a Necromantic Selection, which wipes the board of all the creatures, while he chooses to reanimate Fog's Ventmaw. He then casts a Zombie Apocalypse, which returns all of his zombies back to play, tap. Patrick recasts his commander a second time to cast Dauntless Escort. He then plays a Holdout Settlement, tapping his commander in order to create a soldier token before casting a Johnny, Caller of the Pride. He then uses his idol to draw a card and cast an Overwhelming Instinct. Fog plays a Temple of Abandon, scrying a card to the bottom of his library. He then casts a Dragon's Horde and a Frontier Siege, choosing dragons. Fog then casts Drakuseth, having him fight his Ventmaw when he enters play, before drawing 2 cards and putting a counter on his Horde. On his end step, Justin flashes in a Thunderclap Wyvern. Justin plays a Plains for turn, then recasts his commander Asperia and a Steel Plume Marshal. Gavin casts Lilion's Mastery, creating 2 zombie tokens. He then taps 5 of his zombies in order to reanimate Fog's Ventmaw again from his graveyard. He then pays again to sack a subordinate to gain a life and draw a card. Gavin then recasts his commander again before mailing the top 4 cards of his library into his graveyard. Patrick casts a Citadel Hierophants before tapping his commander again to create another token. He then land cycles a Sylvan Reclamation to go get a land to put into play for turn. Patrick then upticks a Johnny to add another counter to one of his creatures before casting a Dictate of Heliod. He then swings one of his soldiers at Justin, which triggers Justin's commander, drawing him a card. Patrick then untaps all of his permanents while gaining 7 life. He then uses his idol to draw a card before casting a Selesnya Guildmage. On his end step, Fogg uses his Horde to draw a card. Fogg uses his Horde to draw another card and plays a Forest for turn. He then recasts his commander, choosing to fight his Mint Maul. Gavin then casts Last Step Plated to protect his permanents. Fogg then casts Tyrant's Familiar, choosing to fight Patrick's Guildmage, and in response, Patrick pays to use his Guildmage to pump up his team enough to kill Fogg's Tyrant. Justin draws and enchants Gavin's Mint Maul with a Vow of Duty. Gavin casts Open the Graves before then casting a Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This then drains each of his opponents for 11 life while he gains 33 life. Fogg then gets taken out of the game while Gavin pays to sack his Merchant to his rights, drawing a card and gaining a life. He then pays to recast his Merchant from his graveyard, draining the table for another 11 life while he gains 22 more life. Gavin then taps 5 of his zombies in order to take Justin's Sphinx, choosing Justin to draw a card while he draws 3 cards. Patrick pays to create more tokens on Gavin's end step, then casts an Overrun before going to combat swinging out at Gavin. Gavin then blocks 4 of Patrick's creatures but still takes 72 damage while Patrick gains 30 life. Patrick then plays a land for turn before sacking his Escort to make his creatures indestructible. He then casts an Hour of Reckoning to destroy all the non-token creatures on the field. Justin draws and then casts an Azorius Signet. Then plays a plant and recasts his commander a 3rd time. Gavin casts an Army of the Damned, creating himself 13 tap zombie tokens. Gavin then recasts his commander again before milling the top 4 cards of his library into his graveyard. He then attacks Justin with 1 creature in order to untap all of his permanents. Gavin then pays to sack his zombie token in order to gain a life and draw a card. He then pays to recast his Merchant again, draining the table for 8 life while he gains 16 life. Patrick plays another land for turn to cast the Commander's Insignia. He then casts a Conclave Tribunal in order to exile Gavin's enchantment. He then goes to combat swinging 2 creatures of Justin, taking him out of the game, and the rest of his creatures of Gavin. Gavin then blocks all of his creatures attacking him, and Patrick untaps all of his permanents. Patrick then uses his idol to draw a card before casting Scatter the Seeds to create 3 more Saproling tokens. Gavin draws for turn, then sacks his Sphere to draw an additional card, trying to find an answer, but in the end scoops the game up to Patrick. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.